back to my channel. It is Kelly from Kelly's Unexplained, and we are going to dive in to the story of Dr. Fortier. Let's start. If you are new to my channel, I cover true crime, the paranormal, myths and legends, things like that. So if you are into any of the mysterious, any of the unexplained, I am your channel. Please hit that subscribe button and follow all of my links down below to check me out on social media. I'm there for you. Got to issue a warning on this one. Warning, the following presentation contains graphic details of violence against women and children. Viewer discretion is advised. I ran across this story online, which then in turn led me to a recently aired HBO special called Baby God. So this is where I got a lot of my information, and I'm going to put in the description box the link to the HBO special. It was a wonderful documentary, well directed, well written. I thought they portrayed the story perfectly. So I'm just going to kind of give you a summary of that because the documentary is about an hour and 20 minutes long. So this is just a shortened version of it. It's highlighted, so I don't want to take anything away from their documentary. Okay. Down to the nitty gritty. This story starts with Dr. Quincy Fortier. It's pronounced Fortier or Fortier. So I'm going to go with Fortier. Dr. Fortier was born on September 16th, 1912 in Massachusetts. Massachusetts. I hate saying that word. It sounds like Massachusetts. And he kind of got his start in the medical field because he had cows on his farm, kind of like pet cows. He didn't have like a cow farm, but he had 3 cows. And one of them was having problems having a second calf. She got pregnant the first time, had a calf, but she was having trouble having another one. And the family did everything they could to get her to conceive another calf and had problems. And that kind of sparked his interest into fertility. He got his bachelor's degree at Dartmouth University and then went on to get his MD at the University of Minnesota. He practiced medicine in Pioche, Reno, and Las Vegas, Nevada. He kind of covered the just generic family practitioner type medicine, but then he started to specialize in gynecology, and that's kind of where his mainstay was. After getting his medical license, he actually entered the Air Force soon after. He became a flight surgeon, head of the OBGYN department, full colonel, and an acting commander. After serving in the Air Force for several years, he got out of the Air Force and landed back in Las Vegas in 1961, where he opened up his own practice of OBGYN and serving women with fertility issues, delivering babies. He was kind of considered a leading surgeon, a leading doctor in the fertility field. And in the early 60s, science in the fertility field was very new. It was groundbreaking. There wasn't a lot to start with, so he was kind of the forefront of that. He was considered a miracle worker for the fertility department, and women who could not get pregnant, who struggled to get pregnant. He had a reputation of being the guy that could get you pregnant if you were needing a child. The story starts out with Wendi Babst, who actually found out that she was his child. She was a leading detective in the police department who was retiring. She had served her time. She had done amazing things. She was in the crime department and did a lot of investigations with murder, homicide, things like that. So when she retired, one of the things that she had gifted herself with was an Ancestry.com kit because she thought, I have a lot of time on my hands. I want to do something. I want to study. I want to learn about myself. I've never had time to do this before. And here's my chance. When she got her results back, it was startling because none of it made sense to her. She was an only child from her mother and father. And the Ancestry.com kit showed that she had half siblings and cousins with the last name Fortier she had never heard of. She's like, I don't have any first cousins. My mom was an only child. I'm an only child. I should not have any cousins or half siblings. And the name that kept popping up on the DNA match was Fortier. So she started asking questions and reaching out to some of her half siblings, her cousins, writing emails, and what she found was startling. Calls her mom, and she asked her mom, who's this Fortier guy that keeps showing up on my DNA list? Wendy's mom's name was Kathy Holm, And her mom said, well, that was the fertility doctor that I went to when I was 22 to get pregnant with you. Her father and her mother had had trouble getting pregnant and had used Fortier services to get pregnant. Fortier advised Wendi's mother at the time to bring in samples of her husband's semen. They would go to the doctor together. He would artificially inseminate her with her husband's sample, and that she would become pregnant. Well, that did not happen. He actually inseminated her with his own semen and threw away the husband's sample. Fortier was 65 at the time of the artificial insemination, and Wendi's mother was 22. And of course, he did not inform them that he was using his own semen. Back in the 60s, the DNA testing was not available. There was no DNA tracing. There was no way to determine who was the father. And so he thought he was going to get away with this. Well, he got away with it a couple times. He did this to several women. He would see patients inside of his home on Saturdays and Sundays. He actually was married with 5 children of his own with his wife and adopted 2 daughters. He performed gynecological exams on his own children. Another victim who came out from these fertility treatments without their knowledge was a man named Brad Gulkov. He was born in 1966, and he actually looks like an identical version of Quincy Fortier. It is kind of creepy. On top of looking identical to his dad, he has a PhD in human evolutionary genomics. How ironic is that? His mom married a man who served in the Air Force with Fortier, so he was kind of close to the family. They were having problems getting pregnant, went to Fortier, say, hey, I know a guy went to the Air Force with him. He'll help us out. They went to him for their fertility issues. He impregnated the woman without her consent with his own sperm, and Dr. Fortier actually delivered his own son. Brad has had mixed feelings about this. He knows that he would not have been born if his father had not committed these crimes. And he said, I know how human nature is. When a man sees a beautiful woman, it is natural for him to want that woman to carry his child. And he thought, this is the 60s. I'm doing a miracle for these women. Mike Otis was born to a mother who went to Dr. Fortier not for gynecological reasons, but she went to him for a stomach ache. Dorothy Otis went to Dr. Fortier. He tells her to lay on the table, let me do a physical exam. You lay there, don't move, I'll be right back. He goes to the bathroom, gets a sample of his own sperm, comes back. He says, let me just examine you, and artificially inseminates her with his own sperm without her permission. She was not looking to get pregnant. She leaves his exam office thinking that she had a stomach ache. She leaves pregnant. Do you guys consider this rape? Is this the definition of rape? Another gross story comes about with his adopted daughter, Carleen Fortier, who was 17. And as I mentioned before, he had been performing gynecological exams on his own children. He did not send them to another gynecologist. When they needed an exam, he would do it himself. And I totally think this is wrong. I don't think that is something a father should be examining their child. I'm not in the medical field, but I know that would be a very odd thing for me as a woman to have my father examine me, even if he was a doctor. What do you guys think? During one of these exams of his daughter, who's 17, she's not sexually active, he artificially inseminates her with his own semen. He impregnates his own adopted daughter with his semen without her knowledge, without being sexually active. After the wife realized that he had artificially inseminated one of their adopted daughters at 17 who was not sexually active, she filed for divorce immediately. Good for her. He sends her to a home out in Minnesota for unwed mothers to have this baby. He did not want to abort the baby. He wanted it to be born. She came back from the home after having this child. She put the child up for adoption. Secretly, she did not want her name revealed, the father revealed. Jonathan Stensland is the son of this crime. All of his children, including the adopted daughters and his 5 biological children from his wife, claimed that he was sexually assaulting and molesting them, and that he had been doing that his whole life. His younger daughters said that he would perform vaginal exams on them for just a mere stomach ache. There was no need for it. His own sons filed lawsuits against him, claiming that he was sexually molesting them for years. When asked about the molestation of his daughters, he said he was not physically violent. He was always gentle, that they never seemed like it bothered them, and so he thought it was okay. He's a pervert and a predator and a liar and a gross old man. In 1991, he was given the honor of Medical Doctor of the Year for Las Vegas. In the HBO documentary, there are many children who are interviewed, and they paint a picture of a once renowned medical doctor who was living by his own moral code and doing kind of what he wanted to do because he thought he was going to get away with it. As the truth comes out, he was living the life of a manipulative fraud, corrupt, and living by his own moral standard code. Dr. Fortier was first sued in 1996 by a woman named Mary Craddock, who sued him for using his semen to impregnate her without her permission. She argued that he did not tell her that he was using his own semen to impregnate her when she got pregnant. However, the case was settled out of court with a confidentiality agreement and a payment. In 2006, Patrick Fulmer sued Dr. Quincy Fortier once again because he found out he was not the father of his 2 children, but that Dr. Fortier was. Once again, charges were dropped, settled out of court, with a payment and a non-disclosure confidentiality agreement. No charges against him. All the charges were dropped. His lawyers claimed and argued that there is no Nevada law against using your own semen. Indiana and Texas, as of right now, are the only 2 states that have laws that say a physician cannot misrepresent how they will use reproductive materials such as semen. He died in 2006, about 14 years ago. And at the time of his death, he was 93 years old. To him, artificially inseminating women without the permission, using his own sperm, he likened it to providing his own blood, like you were going to give your blood to someone who needed a blood transfusion. He said these women were desperate and he was providing a service. His job as a doctor was to give life, to preserve life, and he thought that's what he was doing, or that's his justification for it. I know that there are going to be hundreds more once this HBO documentary airs. People start getting into more of their DNA history. He treated thousands and thousands and thousands of patients. He was practicing all the way up into his 90s. There are several siblings that have been identified and found, but that don't want to be on the documentary, don't want their names aired, because they don't want to disrupt the families that they have. They don't want any drama in their lives. They just want to move on. So the ones that are featured here are the ones that are willing to talk about their stories and want some justice for their lives. Most of the children are very protective of their mothers and had a hard time telling them. The mothers found out through their children. The children are the ones that were connected to each other, writing emails, making phone calls, and they were the ones that were left with telling their mothers. This story is disturbing on so many levels. It makes me so angry. I'm just glad that science has caught up with some of these crimes and that they're able to tell their stories and get some justice, though I don't know what kind of justice that they feel like they could get. It's heartbreaking. I feel for their children. I feel for all of the children. I've not used Ancestry.com or any of the genetic testing kits. It has been on my bucket list for years. I've always wanted to do it. I've just never spent the money or the time to order it. I'm definitely going to do it now for, my own personal reasons. If you have used Ancestry.com, will you tell me about that below in the comments? I'd love to see what you found out. Hopefully it's nothing like this. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit a like if you did. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to get more true crime and paranormal videos every week. I'm here for you every week. Love you guys. Bye.